Are you really learning or just collecting strategies like Pokemon cards? You watch another YouTube video. It's promising some secret strategy. RSI tweak, EMA magic, price action entry no one knows about. You scribble notes, maybe even test it for a day or two. But the next losing trade? It's back to searching again. Another channel, another guru, another system. It feels like progress, but deep down, it's not. You're stuck in what I call the knowledge trap, the illusion that more knowledge will make you a better trader. But the truth? Knowledge is only half the equation, and sometimes it can actually make you worse. I'm going to break that down in this video, and by the end of it, you might look at your entire trading journey very differently. Let me paint a picture for you. It's midnight, a trader's room lit only by the blue glow of YouTube autoplay. Coffee cup number 4, a notepad with scribbled strategies and setups. The title of the next video says, How I Made 100,000 with This One Setup. You think, maybe this is the one that'll finally click. Sound familiar? That trader was me years ago, hungry for answers, addicted to learning, always one video away from finally figuring it out. But let me tell you, I wasn't learning. I was hoarding strategy after strategy, information overload, and I didn't get better. I got more confused, more anxious, more indecisive. And I've seen this same pattern with traders over and over again. If you've ever said, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't seem to do it, then this video is for you. Let's start with a simple truth that might sting a little. Knowledge doesn't equal skill. Knowing how to do something doesn't mean you can do it under pressure. You can watch 100 videos on shooting a basketball, but until you get on the court, miss, adjust, and miss again, that knowledge is useless. Trading is no different. But here's where it gets dangerous, because trading doesn't give you immediate physical feedback like basketball does. You can feel when you miss a shot. But in trading, the feedback loop is fuzzy. You can win by accident. You can lose while doing the right thing. So knowledge gives you this false sense of control. You think, if I just knew more, I'd make better trades. But every new strategy you add, that's another layer of noise. Another decision you now have to manage. Another conflict between logic and instinct. It's like adding more apps to a phone that's already slowing down. Eventually, it crashes. So how did we get here? Because school taught us that knowing more is always better. Memorize more, score higher, collect more certificates. But trading isn't a classroom. The market doesn't care how many books you've read. It doesn't care how many courses you've finished. It only cares how you behave under stress, uncertainty, and loss. That's why a trader with one simple setup and unshakable discipline will outperform someone with 10 strategies and no emotional control. Every single time. Now, let's talk about why this knowledge addiction is so appealing and so dangerous. It makes us feel productive. Watching videos feels like work. Learning a new indicator feels like progress. But it's not the kind of progress that gets you paid. It's intellectual entertainment. And the scariest part, it protects your ego. Because as long as you're still learning, you don't have to face the reality of failure. You can tell yourself, I'm not failing, I'm still preparing. You delay taking full responsibility for your trades. You blame the strategy, not your execution. You blame the market, not your mindset. And the algorithm feeds into this. YouTube serves up endless content that feels urgent. Do this now. Stop using this setup. This one trick will change your trading. It's designed to keep you hooked, not to make you consistent. Now here's the real punch in the gut. And I say this with love. If more knowledge was the answer, you'd be a millionaire by now. You don't need more. You need less. You need depth, not width. You need to go 10 feet deep on one setup, one routine, one plan, not 1 inch deep on 50. There's a phrase I love from martial arts. Bruce Lee said, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Trading is no different. Now, before you think I'm saying stop learning altogether, let me clarify. Knowledge has its place. It's your foundation. But if you never move beyond the classroom and into the arena, you're not building skill. You're building a library in your head that you never use. And worse, you're overwhelming your nervous system. Every new strategy adds complexity. Every conflicting piece of advice creates hesitation. You get paralysis by analysis. So when you're in a trade, instead of acting, you hesitate. You second guess. You switch tabs to check another indicator. You bail too early. Or you stay in too long, hoping this time it'll work. Sound familiar? So how do you escape the knowledge trap? Step 1 is this: commit to subtraction, not addition. Start by asking yourself, what's the one setup I actually understand? Not just the theory, but the feel, the rhythm, the risk. Pick it. And now for the next 30 days, you only trade that setup. No matter how boring, no matter what new video drops tomorrow, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to itch for novelty. Your brain's going to scream, but what if this new setup is better? That's the withdrawal phase. You've trained your mind to chase newness, not mastery. But if you can sit through that discomfort, real learning begins. The kind of learning that builds emotional muscle, patience, focus, adaptability. You start to notice the nuances, the subtle shifts in price action, the emotional cues in yourself. You stop chasing certainty and start developing confidence. Now here's the twist. Confidence doesn't come from more wins. It comes from familiarity, from being in the same situation so many times that your brain stops panicking. That only comes from repetition, not from knowledge. There's a concept in education called productive confusion. It's the idea that struggling, not just memorizing, is what makes learning stick. When a student wrestles with an idea, tries it, fails, and reflects, that's when true understanding forms. But most traders don't allow themselves to struggle. At the first sign of confusion, they run back to YouTube, to Reddit, to Discord, looking for someone to tell them what to do. That's not learning. That's outsourcing your thinking. And the market punishes that. Let's go deeper. There's something I call emotional bookmarking. Every time you trade through discomfort and survive, your brain bookmarks that memory. It says, hey, that sucked, but we handled it. And next time, you're just a little calmer, a little sharper, a little more in control. But if you never let yourself feel that discomfort, if you always bail into more knowledge, you rob yourself of that bookmark. You stay fragile. Trading success isn't about how much you know. It's about how well you respond when things don't go as planned. When the trade fakes out, when the market goes sideways, when your setup fails 5 times in a row, that's when skill shows up. That's when your true edge is revealed. And none of that comes from a YouTube video. You can't think your way into trading mastery. You have to trade your way into it. Experience, review, refine. Not once, not twice, 100 times. And then some. It's like muscle memory. You can't learn to ride a bike by watching tutorials. You have to wobble, fall, get back on. That's how your brain wires in balance. Trading is the same. But we've become allergic to failure. So we hoard knowledge like it's a shield. But it's not protecting you. It's trapping you. You need to break out. Let's talk about the real reason most traders keep chasing more knowledge: emotional avoidance. See, it's not just about wanting better strategies. It's about trying to avoid pain. The pain of being wrong, the pain of losing, the pain of uncertainty. So what do we do instead? We open another tab, another blog post, another expert opinion, because researching feels safer than risking. Learning feels smarter than losing. But here's the dangerous part. We've confused safety with progress, and the market doesn't reward safety. It rewards resilience. It rewards action. It rewards people who are willing to feel uncomfortable and still move forward. Now, I'm going to say something that might offend your inner perfectionist, but hear me out. Your obsession with learning might be rooted in fear. Not in discipline, not in ambition, but in fear of taking responsibility. Because if you're always learning, then you don't have to be the one making decisions. You can say, well, I'm still figuring it out. But at some point, you're not figuring it out anymore. You're avoiding it. And I get it. Taking a trade, clicking that button, it's vulnerable. It's exposure. It's accountability. It's you saying, this is my decision. I stand by it. And that's terrifying, because what if it's wrong? So you stall. You study, you collect strategies like armor, but all that armor does is weigh you down. You're not nimble, you're not reactive, you're rigid. And the market doesn't care how many books you've read. It only cares about what you do when things go sideways. This is where real trading psychology comes in, because trading isn't just a test of knowledge, it's a mirror. It shows you your insecurities, your impatience, your need to be right, your fear of missing out. It exposes you. And for many people, the only way they know how to cope with that exposure is by stuffing more knowledge into their heads, as if intellectual control will solve emotional chaos. But trading doesn't get easier because you know more. It gets easier because you feel less threatened, because you've learned to regulate your nervous system. You've learned to sit with risk, with ambiguity, with not knowing. And that kind of calm doesn't come from a strategy. It comes from experience, from doing the thing over and over and realizing, hey, I didn't die, I survived, I'm still here. So let me ask you something. Do you want to be a smart trader or a skilled one? Because smart traders know everything. They can tell you the win rate of every setup, the theory behind every market structure, and the psychology of every candle. But skilled traders? They show up, they adapt, they stay calm, they execute without needing to be right. Smart traders sound good in Discord. Skilled traders actually make money. And here's the twist. Most of the top traders I know, the consistent ones, they're not obsessing over the next big thing. They're not updating their charts every hour. They're doing the same thing every day. Simple routine, same plan, same system, over and over, because mastery is boring. Let me repeat that. Mastery is boring. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, it's not full of light bulb moments. It's repetition, discipline, messing up, reviewing, showing up again. That's where consistency is born. But you can't get there if you keep feeding your brain instead of training your body. And by body, I mean your emotional system, your reactions, your tolerance for pain. That's the edge most people never develop. Not because they can't, but because they never sit in discomfort long enough to grow through it. They avoid the pain and call it learning. Let me tell you something important. The brain loves control. It craves certainty. So when you feel anxious, your brain says, go find more answers. Then you'll feel safe. But that's a lie. Because markets are uncertain by nature. So the more control you seek, the more disappointed you'll be. That's why the most powerful shift a trader can make is this. Stop trying to eliminate uncertainty and start building your tolerance for it. That means stop switching strategies every time you lose. Stop assuming you're doing something wrong just because a trade didn't work out. Stop obsessing over perfect entries and start focusing on perfect execution. That's how pros operate. Now let's go deeper. There's something even more dangerous about overloading on knowledge. It starts to become your identity. You start to feel valuable because you know a lot. And when that happens, you stop focusing on performance and start focusing on perception. You want to sound smart. You want people to admire how much you've studied. You build this mental image of the well-informed trader. But being informed isn't the same as being profitable. And the moment your ego gets attached to being smart, you start avoiding anything that makes you feel stupid. Like losses, like mistakes, like admitting you don't know what the market's doing. That's why some of the smartest people struggle the most in trading, because they're used to being right. They're used to solving problems. But trading isn't a puzzle you solve, it's a game you play. Over and over, with imperfect information. And if your ego can't handle being wrong, you're going to sabotage every good system you ever learn. You're going to tweak it to death. You're going to abandon it too early. You're going to add more filters until it no longer works. Because it's not about the system anymore. It's about protecting your sense of competence. And that's when knowledge becomes poison. Now let's flip the script. What if instead of chasing new strategies, you chase new levels of execution? What if instead of saying, I need to learn more, you said, I need to do more of what I already know? Because I bet, right now, you already know enough to be consistent. You know enough about risk. You know enough about setups. You know what discipline looks like. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is behavior. And behavior doesn't change because you read something new. It changes because you practice something real, in real time, with real emotions, and you review that practice. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. That's how you build a trader's brain. You create reps, repetitions, exposure. You learn to sit in discomfort and make decisions anyway. That's what separates consistent traders from smart but broke ones. And yes, it's harder. Yes, it's messier. But it's also more meaningful. Because the wins you get, you earned them. Not because you hacked the market, but because you trained yourself to face it, day after day. Let me leave you with this. The market doesn't care how many strategies you know. It doesn't care how well you can explain divergence or liquidity traps. It only cares about what you do when the pressure is on. Do you panic? Do you overthink? Do you jump to another system? Or do you breathe, follow your plan, and take the next trade like nothing happened? That's your real education. It's not in your bookmarks. It's in your behavior. And until you make that shift from knowledge to skill, you'll keep running in circles, smarter every year, but no closer to where you want to be. Let's talk about boredom. Not the kind you feel in traffic or waiting in line. I'm talking about trading boredom. That weird frustration you feel when you're doing the same setup, the same process, the same routine over and over. It feels like nothing is happening. You start to wonder, is this really it? Is this all I'm supposed to do? And this is where most traders break. They mistake boredom for a problem, for a sign that something's wrong, so they start tinkering, changing time frames, switching strategies, adding new indicators, all in the name of optimization. But the truth, that boredom you're feeling, that's the signal that you're finally doing it right. Because consistency is boring. Discipline is boring. Real growth doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like brushing your teeth. Repetitive, unexciting, routine. But guess what? The people who succeed in trading, the ones who make it long-term, they're not chasing excitement. They're mastering repetition. It's like going to the gym. The people who get fit don't show up with a new workout every week. They do the same lifts, same reps, over and over, progressively. That's how you build muscle. And trading is no different. But here's what makes it hard. Our brains are wired for novelty. We crave variety, new stimuli. That's why scrolling TikTok is addictive. That's why you keep checking Discord or refreshing TradingView. Your brain is always whispering, maybe there's something better. Maybe the next video has the secret. But there is no secret. There's only you, your plan, and your ability to follow it when everything in your body wants to do something else. This is where trading becomes less about knowledge and more about psychological conditioning. Because if you can't tolerate boredom, you'll sabotage every good plan you ever build. You'll jump out early, you'll revenge trade, you'll seek excitement instead of results. So how do you train for that? How do you build your tolerance for repetition? First, accept that progress is invisible. You won't always feel like you're improving. Some days will feel flat, others will feel like you're going backward. But under the surface, something is changing. Your reaction time, your ability to stay calm, your clarity in the moment. These are the invisible skills that knowledge can't teach you, only experience can. Second, track behavior, not just results. Don't ask, did I make money today? Ask, did I follow my rules? Because sometimes the best trades you'll ever take are the ones where you followed your plan and still lost. That's not failure. That's reinforcement. That's proof you can stay consistent under pressure. Now let's zoom out for a moment. You've probably heard this idea before. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That's true in life, and painfully true in trading. And your system isn't just your entry rules. It's your entire environment, your routine, your review process, your boundaries, how you respond to triggers, whether you let your last trade affect your next one. So let me ask you, is your system built for consistency, or is it built for entertainment? Because if your trading sessions are chaotic, scattered, and full of noise, no amount of knowledge is going to save you. You'll keep burning out, keep second-guessing, keep wondering why your results don't reflect how smart you are. This is why a lot of traders don't have a strategy problem. They have a self-management problem. They don't need more tools. They need more structure. And most importantly, more emotional tolerance. This brings us to something I call cognitive overtraining. It's what happens when you flood your brain with too much information without giving it time to integrate. It's like reading 5 books in one day but not remembering a single chapter. And in trading, it shows up like this. You watch a video about order blocks, then a thread about volume profile, then a podcast on price action psychology. Your head is full, you feel smarter, but the next trade you take, you're frozen. Why? Because your mind is cluttered. You've overloaded your decision-making system. This is why elite performers in any field have routines. Not because they're boring people, but because routines reduce cognitive load. They save their mental energy for the things that matter, the actual execution. So if you want to trade like a pro, start thinking like one. Set boundaries on how much new info you allow yourself to consume. Have a structured learning day and a structured trading day. And don't mix the two. Build time to reflect instead of constantly absorbing. Because wisdom isn't about what you've heard, it's about what you've applied. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something deeper: identity. At some point, trading becomes less about what you do and more about who you believe you are. Are you a student forever? Or are you becoming a practitioner? This shift is critical because the longer you identify as a learner, the longer you'll delay taking responsibility. You'll stay in prep mode. You'll keep telling yourself, once I know enough, I'll be ready. But readiness doesn't come from knowing. It comes from doing, from showing up, from stepping into discomfort again and again and proving to yourself that you can handle it. This is why I tell traders, if you want to grow, stop trying to feel ready and start acting ready. Because action creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. And clarity builds confidence. Now let's revisit something powerful from earlier. The idea that more information doesn't create more insight. Insight is born from tension, from wrestling with a decision, from reviewing your behavior, from seeing a mistake and sitting with it, not running from it, not covering it with another theory, but asking, why did I really do that? That's how traders evolve, through reflection, through friction, through accountability. Which brings me to this final point of part 3, the difference between information and transformation. Information is passive. You watch, you nod, you say, that makes sense. Transformation is active. You apply, you stumble, you say, damn, that's harder than I thought. And that's good. That struggle, that's where growth lives, not in the highlight reels of some guru's trading account, not in the perfect backtest curve, but in the mess, in the chaos, in the 1,000 small moments where you choose discipline over emotion, focus over noise, stillness over stimulation. This is the work no one sees, the kind of work that doesn't look sexy on Instagram, but creates results that last. So ask yourself this: are you consuming information? Or are you transforming through experience? Because one of those paths leads to YouTube addiction and emotional burnout. And the other? That one leads to real skill, real confidence, real freedom. That's what you want, right? Not just more setups, but more certainty in yourself. Not just more wins, but peace, even when you lose. That only comes from depth, from narrowing your focus, from mastering the mundane. That's the core message of this part.